Hey, it's Sonia, and welcome to the Smarta Podcast. Today, I want to talk to you about something that my mother has done ever since I was little, and is just built in her foundations, and that is celebrating the smallest achievements, celebrating the milestones, always celebrating something new, something that you accomplished that you've worked so hard for. And for that, I brought the best guy in to talk all about it, and he's such a funny and entertaining person, and he sees celebration as the lens through which we see our world. Doesn't that in itself sound so amazing and force you to think to a new perspective? I mean, how many people really do consider celebrating as such a pivotal point of growing as a person? I could have kept talking about consistency and discipline and determination, but it wasn't until I saw his book in a bookshop that made me think, well, wait a minute here. Celebration in itself and celebrating the little moments of your journey as you go is so important. Why did I ever forget to talk about it? And so that's why today we'll be finding out why it's so important to celebrate. Today, I brought the amazing Scott Friedman on the podcast. Scott Friedman speaks live or virtually over 60 times a year on employee invitation and engagement, customer experience, and how to create a happier, healthier workplace. In addition to being the CCO, Chief Celebration Officer at Friedman Associates, Scott has written Celebrate, Lessons Learned from the World's Most Admired Organizations, A Celebration a Day, 365 Ways to a Happier, Healthier Workplace, Happily Ever Laughter, How to Engage Any Audience, and Using Humor for a Change. He also is the co-author of 4 additional books. Scott now spends 35% of his time speaking throughout Asia and the Gulf region. Given Scott's 25 plus years of speaking experience in Asia, he offers each client a global and culturally sensitive perspective. Apart from speaking, Scott is very involved in philanthropic projects. Scott co-founded Together We Can Change the World, twcctvw.org, a 501c3 foundation focused on anti-trafficking, social business, clean water, and the health and education of less fortunate children and women. Currently, they have over 20 projects in 6 SE Asian countries. And today, Scott and I will talk all about the importance of celebration and why recognizing how important the small milestones throughout your life really is. Hi, Scott. It's lovely to have you on the Smarta Podcast.
Wonderful. Thanks for asking. Good to be here.
Thank you for taking part of this opportunity and for having me here today, and getting to sit down and talk to you is really great. And I can't wait to talk about the impact of humor with you, the power of celebration. And right before we begin, actually, if you can talk directly to the person listening, if they're about to take all the advice that you're going to share with us today, how do you think their lives will get better?
They're going to take all the advice. Help! They're in big trouble. No. I think that, and the great thing about podcasts and learning in general is that everybody gets a little something different from it. So I think the key is to pick something that I say, or anytime you go to a learning experience, and make a commitment to changing your life in some way because of what you heard.
Make a commitment to changing your life to something that you just heard. That's something that I always like to do when I finish my podcast, and it's great that I can hear you actually share my thoughts. And I just, oh boy, I just know I'm gonna laugh so much with you today. And actually, before we got on, I looked you up on YouTube, and it really made me laugh just before. And I really have to say that I looked at you and you were described as this very funny guy. And I want to ask you about your importance in incorporating humor into the workplace and how it can transform the environment if we add this little touch of humor to our everyday work lives.
Well, it seems in a era of divisiveness and a very tense and angry, unfortunately, world that we live in today, um, humor is more important than anything. I mean, I think first probably would be to to combat all the craziness and anger in the world by being ambassadors of kindness. I think that's the best place to start. Um, to remind ourselves of that to really bring as much kindness as we can to the world. But humor acts in the same way. It's a social lubricant. It brings people together. Anytime you can laugh together, you immediately put aside your differences. It's very difficult to laugh with someone that you don't like, but if they can make you laugh, all of a sudden you take a different look at them and say, okay, maybe our views aren't so different after all. So it's very powerful in the workplace if you can use it in the right way. But it's so easy not to use it in the right way. Sarcasm, while it's a brand of humor, it can actually dig ditches of distrust instead of build the rapport that you're looking for. So it really needs to be positive humor. There is in Terry Paulson wrote a book called Making Humor Work, and I he quoted Cliff Thomas in this book, and I think it's a wonderful way, a wonderful reminder of how to use humor. He says, when someone blushes with embarrassment, when someone carries away an ache, when something sacred is made to appear common, when someone's weakness provides the laughter, when profanity is required to make it funny, or when everyone can't join in the laughter, it's inappropriate humor. So it's when everyone can't join in the laughter. So it's very important that it's inclusive instead of instead of making it to where you really don't feel like you're a part of what was just making fun of.
Hmm. Hmm. Definitely. So humor can definitely ease into a situation or make a project seem like a lot more doable if we just, I mean, you can use it as an icebreaker to help connect the people. Yeah, I agree. I agree. I'm completely with you on this one. And Scott, now I want to take you, here's where I want to take you next. You have the very intriguing title of Chief Celebration Officer. Could you start by sharing with our listeners what this role entails of and how it reflects your mission to bringing joy and enjoyment into the workplace?
All right. Well, so I've written two books on how celebration impacts productivity and
Mhm.
performance. So the first book was called Celebrate Lessons Learned from the World's Most Admired Organizations, and then a book called A Celebration in a Day 365 Ways to a Happier, Healthier Workplace. And in the book, we define celebration as acknowledging all that is good, the good work that you do, the people that you do it with, the people that you
Mhm.
do it for. It's when your to-do list becomes your done list. It's celebrating the little and the big milestones along the way. So celebration is really the way we define it is an attitude. It's a philosophy about life. It's the lens through which we see our world. And if we can change our lens, we can change our life. So as being the chief celebration officer, it's my goal or mission to help other people change their lens and have more joy in their life and less hassle. So that is as being the chief celebration officer. Just the name itself reminds me that I can't be such a stressed out, angry old guy. You know,
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I'm not. I'm not. I'm pretty laid back, and most of the time, I'm 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 pretty jovial and fun. But that is just the title. It's like, oh, if I got to be the COO or CCO, Chief Celebration Officer, then I gotta live it. I gotta walk the talk.
Mhm.
So it's a good
Mhm.
reminder on any given day that that is my role. More joy, less hassle.
I agree. And I like the way that you said that your perspective of humor as being a lens to our world, and that if you can change your lens, you can change your world. I think that's really impactful. And I really felt the need to say it again because I think, the person listening can probably step away and think, I completely agree. And maybe that big task or project that they're procrastinating right now might seem a little more approachable. So, yeah, thank you for sharing with that. And I want to also, because you brought up your books, go into the one Happily Ever Laughter that you didn't mention, which is this source for providing practical ideas for using humor to engage with audiences. And as the chief celebration officer, I want to get to know your go-tos for the how you connect with an audience. How do you use humor to connect with them? What are your jokes or how do you do it?
So the key is you want to find out what you have in common with your audience. So you're not there to control your audience. You're there to ask, what are our commonalities and how can we best share those together? So not so much to be the sage on the stage, but more the guide on the side and tap into the wisdom and the humor of the room. So I like to get them as comfortable and ready for connection as soon as I can in my talk. So most of my talks I start with, if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. All right, just checking, just making sure you're in the right frame of mind. Okay, now we can.
Of course I
So right
am,
away
yeah.
they're thinking, right away they're thinking, okay, this guy's gonna be, maybe easier to listen to than most, right? So from the very beginning, those first 30 seconds or 60 seconds are the most important because your audience is going to decide whether they're going to listen to you at that point.
Hmm.
And so then I do variables depending on what the theme may be. Like we just did the Philippines. We did it together. We can change the world tour here a few months ago, and the theme was the courageous leadership experience, where you really had a chance to become. You get a toolkit for becoming a courageous leader. So my talk that day was, if you're courageous and you know it, clap your hands. And then I played off of what it was to be courageous, and so.
Hmm.
And again, so it ties into the theme. It's what's on people's minds, but at the same time, there's a little bit of levity there to know that that it's going to be more fun. So open up your minds and let the learning fall in.
Hmm. Hmm. I agree. To be the sage on the stage. And I think what you say to connect with the audience is something that I really see, especially if, for instance, you're at a public speaking conference and you've got speaker after speaker and you've got half of the audience with their heads down low in their phones scrolling, and then you want to come up with that spark that instantly drags their attention and says, this guy is worth listening to. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And I
So
want to take you.
I was going to say, so yeah, what you're saying is, so what you're doing is you're breaking the preoccupation. So whatever they're going on, and like, and you're right. I mean, we're competing against scrolling, they
Mhm.
immediately, it's so easy to tune you out today. So if you don't do something to engage and break that preoccupation right away, then you may never get them back.
Hmm. Hmm. And I want to bring you, because you dedicated two books entirely to celebration. And I think there's this common misconception of reward and celebration, because a lot of my friends, as soon as they achieve their goals, whether it is to get that A star 100 on their test or be get a certificate, they get rewarded with money or with an object. But I was the person, luckily for my mom, that was always, let's go out and celebrate, even if I didn't get the highest score. And I think that truly, I believe celebrating in itself is something so powerful, because I believe that it made me more confident and more self-aware when I'm making a choice or when I come up with a project proposition. How important is celebration? I mean, you dedicated two books to it.
Hey, yeah, I think you're right. I mean, it does a lot of good things. I mean, and one is it takes the focus in many cases off of ourselves and onto the person that you're celebrating. You know, I'm asked, oh, do you celebrate, uh, Kwanzaa, or you celebrate Easter, or whatever related. And I say, I celebrate everything. Anybody that's celebrating, why not use that as an opportunity to join in their beliefs and their values and honor them. So it's a wonderful chance to honor other people. If you're not Christian, hey, do you celebrate Christmas? Oh, I'm not Christian. Why would I celebrate Christmas? It's like, well, so many people do, and it doesn't have to be about the birth of Christ. It is for many people, but it's a good opportunity to celebrate and to celebrate others. So why not do it? So I have a concept in the book, Celebrate Lessons Learned from the World's Most Admired Organization, called the Best of the Best. And the concept basically is it's a very simple concept, but it's so easy for workplace cultures to become negative because we're always focused on what doesn't work instead of what does work. So simply to start off a meeting with saying, "Hey, let's just count our wins. Let's just talk about everybody share a quick celebration," or you pick one person and where it's like Ritz-Carlton. I think they did such a beautiful job of coming up with this concept of what they call as a lineup, where they start off every single shift at every single Ritz-Carlton in the world with a couple positive moments of service excellence. It could be from a TripAdvisor or a hotel evaluation. It could be from a book. It could be reading hotel evaluation forms. But basically, they want to instill in every single one of their team members across the world this positive service mentality. So by starting off every shift with a story or something that exemplifies what good service looks like, then people start to think in those terms. And that's what celebration really does. It gives you a chance to change your lens. It gives you a chance to get out of your own self-absorbed ways and say, hey, let's come together and celebrate our commonalities. Let's find a way to really look into the lives of other people, see what's most important, and then honor them for that.
Hmm. Hmm. I want to go deeper into the world of celebrating and go step away from the best of the best with the positive service mentality to to back to the importance of celebration. I want you to talk to me about what you think is the importance of daily celebrations and how it can transform the workplace's culture and especially perhaps maybe even boost the team performance.
Well, you wanted to take a step away from that positive service mentality. I'm going to take a step right back to it. 'Cause I
Go
think,
for it.
'cause I think, in Ritz-Carlton's case, to create that positive service mentality, when you celebrate something every day, all of a sudden it changes your mindset. It changes your lens because now you're looking for ways to celebrate others. Uh, the reason the reason that people leave organizations is because they don't feel appreciated. That's the number one reason.
Yeah.
Um, they don't feel like they have a voice. They don't feel like they're listened to. They're not cared about. If you're celebrating something every day, or just more importantly, if you come to work with a celebration mentality, what that
Mm,
means is you're focused outward instead of inward. So really what you're doing is you're looking to how do you make lives better for those that you work with. As a CEO or a leader in any organization, I mean, and I know you have your listeners are younger, that I think the quickest way to rise in any organization is truly to help others achieve their goals, point them out, show how good they are. Too often people come from a scarcity mentality where, boy, if they look great, I'm not going to get that promotion. But the truth of the matter is, if you make other people look great, you are going to rise so fast because people want to be around people that truly are people builders and not people busters.
100%. If you help others, I really, really like your perspective on this. It creates this ripple effect, and you'll have people coming back. It's you give and you get back. It's common principle, and I completely agree. And in this book, you talk about the this concept GPS, gratitude, play, and surprise. Let's elaborate a little bit on this concept and if you could give me a couple of examples of how leaders can apply these principles to create a positive workplace culture, or actually, let's take it down to me. How can I apply this GPS into my life?
Okay, so yeah, it's all about both books are really based on the philosophy of turning on your GPS, gratitude, play, and surprise. So the gratitude is all about how do we model, first of all, how do we model gratitude? How do we learn to be grateful for the things in our lives so that other people can see how it impacts us? But then how do we appreciate others in a way that they want to be appreciated for? And that's important. Too often, I learned when I was president of the National Speakers Association in 2004, 2005. And it was always interesting to me when I would go, I spoke at 38 of our chapters in the US and then another 13 internationally. And it was always fun when I would go speak to a chapter. They always want to celebrate, it seemed. But the difference between celebrating and what their idea of a celebration was
Hmm.
as opposed to what my idea of a celebration may have been. And I'm always grateful for just the fact that they picked me up at the airport. I'm happy for, but it's like, in their mind, boy, a celebration may be a nice steak dinner in a fancy place, and maybe that's not mine. So it's asking the question or paying enough attention to find out how other people really want to be appreciated or what celebration looks like to them. So it's that piece of the gratitude is honoring people or appreciating in a way they want to be appreciated. Right. Then the play is positively living in the present moment. It's being able to let go of worry, anxiety, and pressure, and this is the way it used to be. Mindfulness is all about living here now, being in the state of flow or the state of play, but truly appreciating the moments and the people that you are with now. And then the surprise, the S, is the element of the unexpected. How do we tap into what's highest on people's joy list? And if we can do it through surprise, if we can really show that we took the time to learn about them in a way that they're like, oh man, how did you know that I collected these dolls from all over the world? Wow, I've been looking for this doll for years. Just the little special touches. It really makes all the difference in the world.
Hmm. Hmm.
Turn on your GPS.
Your gratitude, your ability to be positive in the present moment, and the element of surprise. Yeah, I completely agree. And I want to take you back because you talked to me about incorporating humor in a way that all of the audience feels comfortable. You've had, you've spoken across Asia and the Gulf region. And my question is, how do you tailor your presentations to resonate to such a diverse audience?
So again, it's about being inclusive and not being exclusive.
Hmm.
So I have a part of my talk where I involve Siri in my talk. It's a lot of fun when Siri
Yeah.
says something, it's funny for whatever reason. So what I try to when I speak at any organization anywhere in the world, I find out what their major stressors are. Um, and what may be happening in current events at that time. And then I just put a little slant on them, and then I'll have Siri. So I'll say, "Hey Siri, what could possibly cause this group of accountants from around the world stress?" And then I think Siri's going to respond here in a second because I just turned her on. Turn her off. And then I play all the things that cause this group of people stress. So the fact that I've interviewed the folks to know what may be stressful to them at this moment in time not only shows that I've done my homework, but I'm speaking their language and I'm tapping into really what's on their mind. And
Mhm.
and and really humor is just pain, embarrassment, or stress distance by time. So if you look at what caused you stress, pain 6 months ago, hopefully those are the things that we laugh at today. But if we can point them out in the moment, and that's why Siri is funny, because the fact that she's saying it, it's all of a sudden it's in their language. So that's the real key with whoever you speak to. It's you can't use colloquialisms and what in culturally what may be funny in your country. You
Mhm.
really have to figure it out what it is for other countries.
I agree. I think the moment which you're talking about is actually the YouTube video I just went to look at before we got on here, where you're teaching to this university class, I think, and Siri comes on and you're talking about, and it says Donald Trump twice, and it makes me laugh here. I don't know if that's the one that you had in mind.
Oh gosh, that's no. Actually, that's funny that you say that because that's kind of a taboo or conflict. But I, I mean, I don't want to get into politics too much here, but I, the the fact that the fact that I would say Donald Trump twice is something that causes stress. I used to think personally that that was funny because I used to think that everybody thought of Donald Trump as well, that would be funny to everybody, but it's not. There's a lot of people that may be offended by that. See, in my mind, it was okay. Even if you're a Trump fan, you can see that he does cause a lot of chaos. When he was president, there was, every day he'd wake up and there'd be something in the news. So that it is universally funny, but there's so much divisiveness today that I could upset a lot of people by, oh, so he's thinking that, what is he saying about Donald Trump? So you have to be very careful. I'm glad you pointed out that example because that's um, what I thought would be universally inclusive.
Mhm.
Was really not universally inclusive, and that's why I dropped it. I dropped that. I dropped that because it is, anytime you offend even you don't want to offend anybody really, but you're
Mhm.
going to if you're being on the edge with humor, you're going to offend maybe 10% of your audience anyways. I think that that's just accepted, but be very careful. Anything political right now in the United States, given the elections are coming up or whatever, is you don't want to turn off 40%, 30, 40, 50% of your audience if you don't do it in the right way. Um,
Mhm. Mhm.
so you have to be careful that way. Like one example while we're talking. So with current events, so you take what's happening in the company that people are poking a little bit of fun at, and you don't have to take a side. So you have to be careful to make it universal. That's the real key, is that everybody can appreciate the
Mhm.
inclusivity of it. All right. So like when it was in the current events that the Chinese spy balloon and it was over America. So Siri would say of all the things that cause you stress, Chinese spy balloon flying over, and then I would pick the hotel, whatever hotel I was speaking at. Chinese fly. There's a Chinese spy balloon flying over the Hyatt Hotel in downtown Denver, whatever. So that's funny when Siri says it because it's in the news and it's universal. So anyway, but you do need to be a little bit careful. And thank you for bringing up the Donald Trump example.
Yeah, I think you really helped clarify what you could do to implement humor. And actually, you've talked to me about how to be careful in terms of when speaking to an audience. But what about practical advice when it comes to fostering a more joyful and productive area at work? Because you, as the chief um, um,
Celebration officer?
celebration officer, there
Is
it
that
is.
it?
Yeah. You probably have your own tactics or habits or practices when you come into a room to make everyone's faces light up and smile.
Well, I mean, that's a good way to start. It's just carrying in any room you go into a smile. I mean, just the way you project yourself, the way your posture, the way you stand, your smile, but truly, um, the stories you tell yourself in your mind, the 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 way that you having that celebration mentality, the lens through which you see your world. Um, yeah, I think if I may just quickly talk about a little something that's in the book that I think does relate to what we're talking
Go
about
for it.
here.
Yeah.
Um, uh, if you look if you look at life through the eyes of anger and resentment, and you look at your past through the eyes of anger and resentment, it shows up as anger, resentment, and fear in your future. If you look at if you look at your past circumstances, things that have happened to you, and you look at your current circumstances through the eyes of gratitude, it shows up as hope and faith in your future.
Hmm.
So when we talk about changing your lens, if you live through gratitude, then then you're looking at situations how to be more grateful. You define your circumstances differently. So it's amazing how two people can go to an event and take away completely different feelings about that event, basically by your intentions of how you live your life and if you are coming from a place of gratitude. So when you're saying personally, how can you apply these tools? That's the best place to start is what your intentions are. What would you are you looking, you people go into every day either looking for ways to be offended or somebody to ruin their day, or they're looking for how to create more joy, how to make a difference in people's lives. And if that's the place you're coming from, then your GPS is going to most likely be turned on, and that is going to make a huge difference in everyday life.
I agree. So just to come back to what you said, your posture, your smile, the stories that you tell, the lens, the mentality that is when you walk in, and your intentions,
Yeah, the stories that you tell yourself.
the stories that you
'Cause we
tell
all have
yourself.
we all have our own stories. That's what, that's one thing I cannot support my friends in some of the stories they tell themselves. Do you have friends that they tell all of their other friends their drama? That something happens to them in their lives. They go from one friend to another friend, and they live in that drama for a long period of time. If you continue to rehash that drama over and over, you live there, and then you start to create your life around drama. So I don't support, or when they, or when if they've been done wrong, and they'll say, "Oh, can you believe that somebody did this to me?" And I said, "Nobody does anything to you. It's the way that we interpret that. It's the stories that we tell ourselves. We're real At the end of the day, we're pretty much responsible for just about everything that happens in our life. So
I agree.
yeah,
Yeah.
so that's very powerful. That change your lens, change your life, change your stories, change your life.
Wow, that's impactful. I like that. And Scott, I want to take you to a more general, broad term here. And particularly in the future, as we look ahead, what trends do you see emerging in the realm of work experience, workplace culture, and employee engagement? Do you think the sort of mission that you're on here to make the workplace more funny and easygoing and to celebrate really their achievements, no matter how big or small is, do you think they're gonna get better?
uh, Become more prevalent in the workplace. It all depends on the organization. I mean, we're at such a pivotal time in global workplace history because of AI. And it just depends on how we really use AI. AI is a wonderful tool that can be used to bring people closer together, to automate systems, to gather big data in a way that you can truly use it to for positive reasons.
Hmm.
And then it can be destructive as well. So it's being able to embrace it in such a way that we use it as a tool for good in our companies, figure out the best way to automate, to cut down on time, that we do things to get all the information we need to be a better company and be better servant leaders as a brand. And if we use it for that, then you bet there's all kinds of ways that it'll create more engagement and productivity and bring our people closer together. But that's yet to be seen how organizations are using it. But you see a lot of these software companies that are getting into it now and offering their services in such a way that it is used for good and to shine your brand in a positive light. So
Hmm.
I hope, being an eternal optimist, I hope you see a lot more of that and not so much of the destructive behavior behind it.
Hmm. For sure. Yeah. What about how organizations can foster a happy and healthy work environment apart from celebration and humor? I'm challenging you on this one here. Do you think there are any other do you think there are any other methods
Well,
to implement or
sure. I mean, it really comes down to, is it top-down leadership or is it bottom-up leadership? And being bottom-up leadership is it a situation where we're all part of a team that are on the same journey, coming up and defining what our mission is together? I mean, if people feel that they're part of a movement, that their company is doing something it's good for humanity. That's what I love about your generation is more and more it's important to save the planet because they see what's happening to the planet and they're going to be around a lot longer than some of us that are older. um, um, as well as they want to make a difference. They want to make a positive difference to humanity. So if you in order to do that, yeah, I've done a fair amount of 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 working on organizations that I used to have a program called Turn on Your PSR, which is personal social responsibility as opposed to corporate social responsibility, and we looked at organizations that really were more involved in personal social responsibility, not so much corporate social responsibility. And the difference is, so let's say that you join a company and every November they do this big push for the March of Dimes or cystic fibrosis, and they're going to take a little piece of your paycheck out, or they're going to host a barbecue in honor of cystic fibrosis and raise $1 million. Okay. That's CSR. Okay, it's nice that a company's doing this. I don't particularly like the fact that you're taking it out of my paycheck because maybe I don't care about cystic fibrosis or whatever the cause may be. All right. So that's CSR. The difference, the PSR piece of it is what do you care about individually? Like, I love Microsoft. Microsoft,
Mhm.
if your cause, let's say you have a son with Down syndrome. All right, so you want to you want to do everything you can to invest money in research for Down syndrome. All right, so you go to Microsoft and you say, hey, my son has Down syndrome. Can you help me? And they say, "You bet. We're going to get behind it. We're going to do a fundraiser on campus, on our Microsoft campus. We're going to have a big barbecue. We're going to create awareness around this, and we're going to raise money, and you can have all the money." And
That's
so it's
great.
yeah, I mean, so organizations that tap into your personal social responsibility. Now all of a sudden, like, damn, I can't leave Microsoft yet. We're not having the barbecue for another month. And then I'll take my stock and then
Yeah.
yeah. So back to your question of so how do you create this workplace that does create this harmony and this connectedness that doesn't have to do with humor and celebration? It's you make sure that you drive human values and that everybody is on the same journey, moving in the same direction and feel a part of the team. And that's why inclusivity is so important, is that people want to feel honored. They don't want to feel any divisiveness. There's already enough divisiveness that we have now. Do whatever you can to get rid of that. And that's why with inclusivity, if you the organizations that that celebrate and honor Deepavali and Chinese New Year and Ramadan, and so you tap into all of it. Even if you don't even have employees that may be of Muslim descent, to honor Ramadan, it just shows that you're inclusive, that you care about everybody. So yeah, that's how
And
you continue to create that positive, harmonious culture.
And I think there's something very special about instead of sticking on a very general level, you go deeper and connect with every person with a little more something personal, customizable, and tailored to their likes, their passions, their needs. I think that's really how you can build long-lasting connections. I want to take you to the Together We Can Change the World foundation that you co-founded, which focuses on combating human trafficking and improving the lives of disadvantaged children and women in the Southeast of Asia. And I want to ask you, how do your philanthropic effects influence your approach to leadership and celebration in organizations?
Yeah, I think we've been talking about it all the way along. Yeah, it's coming from that. It's coming from that place of inclusivity, of
Yeah.
servant leadership, a bottom up leadership. I'm a servant leader. My Our mission is to empower and educate less fortunate children and women in Southeast Asia. We have 20 some causes in 5 countries, and my role as being the CEO and
Mhm.
co-founder of Together We Can Change the World is really provide opportunities for people to change their lives, to bring more joy into their lives, whether you're a member of one of our causes, a marginalized young lady that has been trafficked that ends up at the Good Shepherd Sisters in Thailand and nursed back to health through compassion and love, or whether you're somebody, a professional speaker and author on one of our tours. The life you change is going to be your own, because we're all in service. We are, there, but for the grace of God go I. Any one of us could be in any situation due to uh, the way where we're born and the situation we're born into, or whatever awful circumstances happen. You and I happen to be members of the Lucky Gene Club, being born in the U.S. and being privileged. If we take advantage of the opportunities, it's easier for us to take advantage of the opportunities that are given to us. I mean, I know just from looking into your background a little at a young age, all the great things that you have done, but it helps to be members of the Lucky Gene Club for you. It's easier for you to do that and take advantage of that than it would for so many. So our goal is to provide those opportunities for everybody, those that wouldn't have those opportunities. So how does that affect leadership? If that is our goal, Tony Fernandez is one of the folks that we mentioned in the interview for the first book, Celebrate. And I love what he said. And I heard him speak on a program that we were on in Asia together. Tony Fernandez, for those of you who may not know him, probably most of you don't, that are listening to this podcast, is the founder of AirAsia. AirAsia is kind of like the Southwest Airlines of Asia. And Tony Fernandez says his goal as CEO of AirAsia is to unleash diamonds. How can you
Unleash diamonds.
truly unleash diamonds? How can you truly find the diamond in everybody? It was like a young lady who was uh, wanted to become a pilot. She was in customer service, and he did everything he could, and sure enough, she became a pilot. Or a baggage handler, the same thing, wanted to become a pilot. So he looks at and trains his managers, encourages his managers to truly lift up your people. then they'll serve you for as long as they possibly can. You'll have a lot of positive buzz out there in the community and in the world because of all the good you're doing. So that's gonna really put a lot into your emotional bank account in the
Hmm. Hmm.
around the world, and then you don't try to hold on to people. I mean, they're going to want to stick around for as long as they can, but you provide them the opportunities, whether it's within the company or with outside of the company. And so that's the goal of we're trying to do that with Together We Can Change the World, provide those opportunities through mostly, not mostly, but one of the things we do most of is building technology centers so that that those ladies who may not have the opportunity or the finances, but if they can learn a skill like video editing or Canva or
Hmm.
uh, AutoCAD software, something that they can really dig deep into and make good money and get out there and be on Fiverr and some of those. So, and so that's the same thing in organizations. How can we do the very best we possibly can do to make sure that we provide opportunities and that we take care of the values and give a voice to all of our employees?
Hmm. Hmm. I want to bring you back to your books, Happily Ever After and Celebrate. And I want to ask you if there are any other practices or examples apart from the GPS that I or any other teenager or student in university perhaps can do to implement in their everyday lives to feel more happy and celebrate and confident with themselves.
As you ask that question, three things come to my mind that define a great speaker and a great leader that I think that would bring us more joy in our lives as we embark on this journey together. Uh, and those three qualities are authenticity, humility, and vulnerability. Two. I think as when we're younger, when I was young, you want to fit in. You don't want to be the one that's looked down upon and laughed at. And
Mhm.
so we tell ourselves these stories that we don't fit in, and that what makes us special, we find a way to create in our mind that that's really what makes us awkward. So it's changing that story in our mind, first of all, by being authentic. Whatever gifts God gave you, be grateful for them. Use them in a way to be positive and to uplift others. So that's the authenticity piece. Speakers that are authentic, that you feel the connection because they're just telling you who they really are. They're not trying to be something that they're not. That's the authenticity piece. The humility piece. You know, we don't like to be around braggers. Whenever, especially when speakers continue to tell their stories about how they conquered the world, basically, and they're the heroes of their own stories, it creates this disconnect eventually because now they're up here and we're down there. Well, I can never be that kind of person. And so you want to be humble. You want to talk about what you've learned and done in life through humility, through your failures, to tell the stories of how it didn't work out, of what you learned, and so that people can relate to our pain, and they because they feel pain. Most everybody's going through some kind of pain in their lives, so you want to be able to tap into and be vulnerable enough and humble enough to go there. So those three things: humility, authenticity, and vulnerability. To be able to share how we feel and not to, you know, some people do it well on social media as others. I mean, you look at some of these stats on social media and looks like everybody has a perfect life in many instances if you read social media, but it's so nice the ones that are just sharing their true feelings and when it doesn't always work out so well, and that if there was more of that, the vulnerability piece, then we could relate to it. It's like, wow, I don't live in this bubble, and that's my life isn't so bad after all. There's a lot of people that are feeling what I feel and have conquered it in such a way that they've turned out to be wonderful people and make a big contribution to society.
Yeah, yeah, authenticity, vulnerability, and humility. And I think I truly connect with what you're saying now because I myself also remember going back in time to when I was a little bit smaller, when I went on social media and looked at all these celebrities, public figures, influencers, and thought, wow, their life is perfect and they're so amazing. They're so busy. They do all of these accomplishments every single month, if not even more. And then now, because of the bright side of technology, you can tune into seeing their real lives, their everyday routines, and it brings you one step closer and you feel heard and you feel like it's okay. And for me, especially, I feel this sort of motivation knowing that I'm on the right path. And even if it takes a while, you can enjoy the climb. And once you finally reach the summit, you know that you've actually enjoyed the progress, the process of going there. And
Yeah.
now to take it back to end it actually, we have this tradition here on the Smarter podcast where we ask the last guest a question for the next one. And Dahlia Feldheim, which was on the show last time, left this question over for you, Scott. And the question goes as follows. If you are in a toxic environment, how would you use humor to diffuse tension?
So it's very tricky in a toxic environment. So one concept in the book is the concept of using humor as a keto. So keto is a martial arts, and the philosophy behind a keto is instead of attacking back when you're attacked, you take the force or the energy thrust upon you and you blend with it. So if
Mhm.
somebody said, "Who's the idiot in charge here?" Uh, I'm head idiot. What can I do for you? Do you
Mhm.
suffer from insanity? No, I'm starting to enjoy it much more now. I don't suffer near as much as I used to from it.
Mhm.
So you take it and you blend with it. So you're it's tricky in a sense because when people are angry, they don't want to be joked at
Mhm.
necessarily. But
Mhm.
if you joke at yourself, so by saying like, "Who's the idiot in charge?" Or "I'm head idiot," you're owning, that you're part of the issue. So
Mhm.
self-effacing humor, the highest form of humor is is the ability to poke fun at yourself.
Mhm.
And if I can make fun of myself in a toxic work environment, if hey, the reason that this we're in a toxicity, I know I'm responsible for a lot of this toxic. I go home and I feel like I bring toxins in the house with me. I mean, if you can just, I mean, I'm just kidding as far as, but you kind of own your environment, and you bring it so through humility, through self-effacing humor, you can
Mhm.
lighten up the situation a bunch.
Definitely. Yeah. And using yourself as the main purpose of making a joke also brings you down to the other people's levels and uses that vulnerability and humility. So I completely agree. And Scott, before we go off, if you could talk directly to the person listening and speak directly to them, what advice would you give them if they're just starting out their careers? And what if they're going to take to heart everything that you're going to tell them now? What advice would you leave them with?
I'm going to go back to the little catchphrase: change your stories, change your life, change your lens, change your life, because it's so powerful. You hear us talk about attitude all the time, but you know it really makes a difference on the stories we tell ourselves. Um, look for more joy, look for less hassle in your life, and more important than anything else, you want to build a successful career. Help others build their careers. Give away all your trade secrets whenever you possibly can. Lend a hand to help people through tough situations or on the job. And and just be a servant leader. Just give as much as you can of yourself, realizing that we live in an abundant world, not a scarce world. There's plenty of success for everybody, and the quickest way to success is to help everybody else get there, and then everybody else will want to help us get there, and we will definitely get there that way.
Mhm. Those are great words of wisdom, and I completely agree. And Scott, thank you one more time for being on the Smart Up podcast. It meant a lot, and thank you. Good luck in the future with everything that you have. Best of luck. Bye bye.
You too. I look forward to seeing great things from you and continue to share your wisdom and make sure that you share some of that vulnerability because as a outsider looking in, I'm sure that many look at you and say, "Wow, she's got everything together at such a young age." So make them realize that it's not always that way.
Before we continue, I want to talk to you briefly about this amazing organization called SOS Children's Villages. SOS Children's Villages Romania has been providing children in need with a safe, clean home, healthy food, a good education, and the love and the care that they need. I know they're literally saving children's lives as I had the chance to donate books to them and sit down and talk with them. All donations are highly appreciated, and you can donate online to SOS Children's Villages Romania at the link in the description below and change a child's life forever. So to conclude that last statement, as Scott wonderfully finished up, to be a good speaker, whether in the work environment or simply whether you're listening and it's time to deliver a speech to one of your friends that broke down and needs your help, there are 3 key things that you need to do to make you stand out, be a better leader, be a better speaker, be a better person or friend. And those are authenticity, humility, and vulnerability. The most powerful thing a person that tries to make a joke can do is make fun of yourself. And when you do that, people feel less intimidated by you. People feel like, oh, wait, this person is actually human too. And it eases your way into a relationship, into a business deal, into a gig, into strengthening your relationship with a person. Having that vulnerability in every joke, being authentic with the things that you do in everyday life. And so, I'm gonna ask you that if you've got a person that's very interested in just becoming their better selves or just took their exams and saw the results and needs a little bit of encouragement, then this is the perfect little nugget. Please share this episode with them and leave a 5 stars review if any of the information taught you something new or made you go, tomorrow I'm gonna do that next time I pass a milestone. Remember, step by step, you get closer to your goals. And even when you don't feel like you're doing much, if you stick to a routine and do the habit that will take you to the big places, then you'll be there before you know it. And if nobody told you today, I believe in your ability to make a better life. Have an amazing week ahead, and the first accomplishment that comes your way, what will you do? Celebrate. Bye bye.